Buttrill, welcome to the program. How are you?
Thank you, sir. I'm doing amazing. I feel like with all these disclosures and everything coming out that we're finally getting some answers that we've been frustrated on. I know the audience has been frustrated. I share those with you, but now things are becoming clear, and I'm hopeful. I'm definitely white-pilled right now. I'm feeling a lot of hope. It's great.
I'm glad to hear that because right now, I mean, I mentioned this yesterday. My doctor said to me, 15, 20 years ago, I'm not going to talk to you about surgery until your back is so on fire that you're begging me. And I've been about 3 months into the absolute, I'm begging for surgery now, that I am so, it's weird what pain can do to you. I'm so black-pilled on everything right now. So black-pilled, and part of it is just because I'm becoming unreasonable. I'm having, as I said to Jason and Sarah, feel free to jump in at any time today because I can barely concentrate on anything and hold thoughts together. But between that and the fact that we have not seen any sign of justice, we've seen a lot of stuff. We've seen 41 Planned Parenthood centers close. Mm-hmm. That's a very big deal. 41 Planned Parenthoods have closed. We have seen the Corporation for Public Broadcasting gone out of business. And I don't celebrate that, but I do celebrate our tax dollars not going to NPR and PBS anymore. You can sell commercials. You have big boy pants. Oscar the Grouch can help you out. He's probably got very deep pockets if he had legs. So, I mean, you can handle that. We're seeing things that we've never seen before, and things are going really well in some areas. But the biggest area, I think, that is the one that bothers most people is there's no justice. It doesn't seem to be justice for those people who are in the elite circles. They don't pay a price. And we're laying out a show tonight that Jason and I have been working on now it seems like we've been working on this one for 15 years. The next two shows are going to lay some stuff out next week. We have big chalkboards, and we're going to lay it out almost like we did the impeachment trial, because we've had all of these pieces, but now we have proof of it. And that has not given me any satisfaction. But is it Pam Bondi now that is giving you hope, or is it just the fact that this is becoming so provable now?
I think it's that it's becoming provable. And the fact that we do have an administration that is referring this towards some kind of criminal proceeding is very, very uplifting. But, I mean, Glenn, you and I have walked through chalkboards and we're like, okay, this is what happened. Like this dot connects to that dot. There's these people. We have these documents. But there was always one little thing where we were like, but we need this that's it. Like we know this is true. It's common sense. Yeah, but if we had this, it is over. And now we're starting to see those like questions that I completely forgot about. Like, who would think that we would see possibly an answer on the Bill Clinton, Loretta Lynch meeting on the tarmac in Arizona? Remember that? I mean,
yeah.
How would that come through now where we're like, oh, that's what's happening. Now we know where that originated from. Like, we're starting to see answers. Who would have thought, Glenn, that we would see now through Russiagate answers to questions that we had about Ukraine and the George Soros Open Society Foundation and their collusion with the Obama administration? You and I dug through emails. What year was that? I can't even remember where we were showing collusion between the two of them to basically steal a country. Now we're getting answers to that off of a Russiagate disclosure.
Yeah, 2017. And you know what's so frustrating is we knew this was true. And I guess we should rephrase this. It's satisfying. We knew this to be true, but like you said, we never had the pieces where we could say, case closed. You still had to take a leap of faith and say, okay, well, that makes total sense, but you've got it 95%. You know what I mean? You got it maybe, worst case scenario, you have 80% of it. And so, yes, but is it beyond a reasonable doubt? For me, it always has been. Once we get up around 90%, I'm sorry, but reasonable doubt, you can connect the dots and you look at the pattern over a long period of time and you see who these people are, and you can say without a doubt, without reasonable doubt, or beyond reasonable doubt. But that's not good enough to be able to say, other than what we said is, this is our theory on what happened. Now it is becoming provable fact. And it is quite satisfying, and to see that they are now getting all of the records. They are convening a grand jury. It looks like this might happen.
Yeah, I think it is going to happen, and I'm just kind of rolling through some of the maybe potential charges that I could see. I could easily see multiple people within the FBI getting charged with obstruction of justice. I could easily see that. Another question that we had just based off of that point, remember, there's all these flashpoints within the past decade plus of history where we were looking at the TV screen as something was going on, like a James Comey going on TV, public announcement saying he's dropping the investigation into Hillary Clinton's email server. We were like, what? How are you giving this response of intent somehow, fitting that in to say why? And now we're looking at this Durham Annex, and we're seeing the reason why they're dropping the case is pretty much they were scared to death. The deep state, quote, was exasperated, not knowing what to do because of all these leaks. They did not know what to do. So the FBI apparently was like, we've got to shut this down now. Why? Well, also, and as we'll show you tonight, the granddaddy at the top, the president at the time, was saying, I need to use all levers to shut this down immediately. Too many scandals, end of my term, we have to shut this down. It's bringing everything into context, and it's kind of amazing to me that we're not seeing more in the mainstream media draw some of these connections and pointing some of these things out, because they're huge.
Of course not. We will not see this in the mainstream media. I mean, this is going to happen without it. I mean, did you see the guy? This is from Just the News. John Solomon, the guy who was, the signer and really one of the big pushers, Larry Pfeiffer, of the Hunter Biden laptop letter.
Yeah.
Saying that the Russians, he is still saying today, he has come out and he has doubled down that, I'm telling you, that was a Russian op. What? Are you nuts? Do you really think you're going to get away with it? And here's the other thing. They are starting to make sure that the statute of limitations is not a thing of the past. You see that Brennan and Comey had come out and they said, all of this stuff is false, yada, yada, and they wrote an op-ed in the New York Times. That has now opened them up again because it's dragged it into a new time period. Even though a grand conspiracy you forget about all statute of limitations if it's a grand conspiracy, but they just did it. They just did it again. They've opened themselves up to, prosecution because they just perjured themselves again.
Yeah, keep on doing that, boys. Yeah, keep on
doing it.
And that's been their strategy. If they're confronted with overwhelming evidence and guilt, they just double down and say, nah, that didn't happen. That's always been the left strategy on these things. My hope is the time is now different, and that is over, and that is no longer going to work. That's my hope.
So listen to this. According to Tulsi Gabbard, the nation's top intelligence officials, my refusal, this is Mark Elias, my refusal to post on Twitter is being reviewed by the Department of Justice as evidence of wrongdoing. No. Explain who Mark Elias is, Jason. Remind people. This guy is everywhere, everywhere throughout these scandals.
He's pretty much the conductor of the left's lawfare on anything they want to do to shut down whatever conservatives or the Republican Party wants to do. He's pretty much the conductor.
Yeah, he's an architect. He's also involved in Act Blue, is he not?
That I do not know about. I'll have to check that.
Check that. Okay, maybe I'm thinking of somebody else, but he has been everywhere on anything legal, and his fingerprints are all over this case from Tulsi Gabbard. He said, he writes, if that sounds preposterous, it is. If you don't believe it's true, and neither do I. The question is, why did Tulsi Gabbard say it? What does it mean for the Trump administration's weaponization of government? He's now saying that the government is being weaponized by Donald Trump. I became aware of the latest conspiracy theory in an unusual way as a question on a pro-democracy podcast. I love that. Within minutes of sitting down with Tim Miller from the Bulwark podcast last Thursday, he asked me about the right wing's latest attack on me. I don't know if you've seen this, but Glenn Beck says that Mark Elias has stopped posting on X. John Kerry privatized his account and Peter Strzok deleted his account. Is the deep state panicking? Miller asked jokingly, are the deep state and you, are you panicking? I responded with, do I look panicked? Each time I'm targeted, the volume of hate I receive online and in correspondence spikes. Oh, is that happened to you, Mark? Oh, welcome to my life. Oh, I don't know. Circa 2002. Some of it's deranged. Much of it is anti-Semitic.
What? What?
Apparently he's Jewish. I didn't know. Apparently he's Jewish, and he's on the left. So this is now if you're targeted by anti-Semitism, it's coming mainly from the left, my friend. And thank you for growing it on the right. You've done such a great job. Anyway, some of it's deranged. Much of it is anti-Semitic, and it's deeply conspiratorial. Like Beck, many of the purveyors of these lies accuse me of being part of the deep state. Now listen to this. I've never worked in government, and I have no ties to the U.S. national security agencies. That doesn't mean that you're not a member of the deep state, dude. I mean, NGOs, non-governmental organizations. I mean, they're part of the deep state. They're getting funding from the state to do the... Is it really? You know who else has not been part of a state organization? George Soros. He's definitely part of the deep state. You are one of the, I'm not sure if he's an architect or he's just one of the footmen, but he is absolutely, in my opinion, part of the deep state. And you know, we see this because we've done chalkboards and his name continues to appear over and over and over again. You know, it's like if you're a detective and there's a serial killer on the loose and it's the same MO. At some point you begin to look at the crowd that's around that body every single time. And if there's a couple of people that keep showing up and they're at the scene of every crime, you're like, wait a minute. That's interesting because how are you guys always here? Why are you always at the scene of the crime? Why? What? Can you explain that? He's always there.
Yeah, you talk about like we connect dots, and especially when we do these chalkboards. And we're not accusing you anything, obviously, Mark Elias. But like when the dots go through, and we talk about George Soros, we notice that you also worked at Perkins Coie. $5 million went from George Soros to Perkins Coie. We also know that you were there in April 2016. Mark Elias, you helped to hire Fusion GPS, the people that produce the Steele dossier. I don't have to draw too many more connections off of that. They're doing it themselves.
I mean, yeah, it may not be the legal standard. You know what I mean? There may be reasonable doubt for a jury, but this ain't a jury, man. This is not a jury. We're just looking at the people standing around going, I don't know. There seems to be an awful lot of activity here with Mark Elias.
Fishy.
I think maybe we could put him in the category, at least non-legally, in a category of, I don't trust that dude. Maybe that's just me. All right, back in just a second. Let me tell you about our sponsor.
NMLS 182334, NMLSConsumerAccess.org. APR for rates in the 5 starts at 6.799% for well-qualified borrowers. Call 800-906-2440 for details about credit costs and terms.
Okay, let me tell you about American Financing. American Financing, it's amazing how quiet financial stress can be. It doesn't always show up as a crisis. Sometimes it just lingers there. It's a tension in your shoulders, a sinking feeling when the bills show up, a thought that keeps you up at night whispering, I don't think this is sustainable. There is nothing worse than this feeling of, I don't know if this is sustainable. Especially, I think it's just as bad. When you know it's not sustainable, it's bad. When you're not sure it's sustainable, I think it's just as bad when you're like, I don't know. I just don't feel comfortable. I think, and you're afraid to look at it. Don't be afraid to look at it because you're afraid to look at it because you think there's no answers, but there are answers. And you can find them with the people at American Financing. American Financing is going to help you find the right way out of your financial situation. They're going to be able to show you things that you may not have even considered. And the people in this audience that are going and doing business with American Financing are saving an average of $830 every single month. That's like a $10,000 raise. That would help. If your boss came in and said, I'm going to give you a $10,000 raise, would that be a good thing? You wouldn't think twice. Why haven't you called American Financing yet? That's the average that people save in this audience just by calling American Financing or going to AmericanFinancing.net. The number is 800-906-2440, 800-906-2440. It's AmericanFinancing.net. 10 seconds, back to the show. You think back on all of the chalkboards that we've done over the past 15 years, the questions that I have asked, Ukraine, Russiagate, weaponization of government under Obama and Biden, the use of non-government organizations, NGOs, think tanks, Soros Open Society Foundation. It has been a very, very long road. We might actually be at the end of that road, or at least being able to answer the critical questions that we've been asking for so long. Both the ODNI disclosure by Tulsi Gabbard and now the Durham Annex release have given us a glimpse into so much more than just Russiagate. Multiple questions, multiple chalkboards are now becoming so very, very clear. If you are a fan of the chalkboard shows and you've been monitoring, you need to watch the next two Wednesday night specials. Tonight, we're going to begin to pull back the curtain. We're going to use the Durham Annex to answer some questions that go back over 10 years. And next week, we're going to use that context to map out the entire deep state operation up on a giant chalkboard. It's a series you cannot miss. It's so much more than what it appears. And that's why the mainstream media may be delivering themselves the knockout punch this time. It all starts tonight, the Wednesday night special at 9 p.m. Eastern on Blaze TV and on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Glenn Beck. Trump just uncovered a much bigger scandal than Russiagate. Tonight, 9 p.m. Blaze TV and YouTube.
This is Glenn Beck.
Have you ever noticed how young dogs just go? Young people do that as well. They just go and go and go and go and go and go. And they wake up ready to run. They don't have to spend half an hour stretching. They don't sip coffee. They don't check emails or complain about Mondays. They just bolt into the day like it's the best day of their life, because to them it is. But as your dog gets older, that natural energy starts to fade and the bounce isn't there anymore, and the chase gets shorter and the naps get longer, and it happens gradually until one day you realize your dog who used to zoom around the yard is now just watching from the shade. This is why I recommend Rough Greens. It's a nutritional supplement that you add to your dog's food. It's not a pill, not a powder that they just spit out. It's a simple mix of vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and nutrients that help fuel a healthier, more active life for your dog. And right now, you can get a free Jumpstart trial bag for your dog today. It's a $20 value, but you'll get it for free just to cover the shipping, and that's it. And you'll be able to see if your dog likes it, eats it, and I think almost immediately you will begin to see differences in your dog. Roughgreens.com. Call them at 214-ROUGH-DOG, 214-ROUGH-DOG, roughgreens.com, promo code BECK.
Big changes are ahead, transforming history and how we learn about it. Right now, keep track at glennbeck.com.
Welcome to the Glenn Beck Program. We have another sex toy on the WNBA floor incident that has happened. It's apparently the thing to do nowadays.
Yeah, Glenn, this is breaking news. It appears the third toy has now been launched from the audience and rained down onto a WNBA court. So yes, big things are happening.
Is it the same? Is it the same team? Is it happening to the same team? Because wasn't it the Bills fans? Didn't they do that to the Patriots for a while? Which you kind of understand.
That makes sense. That makes complete sense.
That makes sense.
This is I think this is the Indiana and Los Angeles. I have no idea what WNBA teams call themselves, but it's kind of funny because it doesn't even look like the ladies are that mad. Like this one chick is just kind of cracking up. It's
I mean, it is. People are being arrested for this.
What?
I want to know what sex toy violation is happening here. What law is there?
Maybe there's like a clause. I don't know. Like when you buy a ticket.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it for the NBA. The NBA is saying that if you do this, they're kicking you out and you won't be able to go to another WNBA team game, which is like, oh, darn it. If I could be banned from it, at least I have an excuse. It makes me want to go buy a sex toy and throw it out onto the court just so I have an excuse. I could say, no, I wanted to support them, but they won't let me in. Anyway, people are being arrested for this, and I can't imagine what the law is that they're breaking.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad for the WNBA a little bit because if you've watched like highlights, the product there is just not amazing. They'll go through minutes without scoring a basket. I think that people's pushback now, it's kind of funny, is people are being forced into accepting that they have to watch this, that they have to be okay with a women's
Those days are ending.
basketball league, getting paid just as much as a men's basketball league. It's just
No. Those days are ending. That whole lie is, all these lies are just coming crashing down, which is really good. But I want to get back to the sex toy thing because there seems to be a global epidemic of this. Let me listen to this story. This comes from the New York Post. A naked man wearing nothing but a stocking mask and plastic clogs while carrying a sex toy on a stick has been startling tourists wandering around a historic castle in Slovakia. The unidentified intruder posed for a picture carrying his bizarre prop Monday near a castle. He reportedly apologized to the two female hikers that spotted him, claiming that he thought no visitors would be around on Monday, and then let him take a picture. He had a stocking mask on, a stick, and a sex toy stuck to the stick. Quote, "We were scared of him, but he told us he was sorry. He didn't want to scare us, so he just asked us for directions because he thought that since it was Monday, he wouldn't meet anyone." The naked man with, a sex toy on the stick. Boy, there's so many things I could say here, and I'm just not going to say any of them. Left suddenly. He apparently, they thought he was following. The women thought that, they said, when I turned around, he turned and started to follow us. I was terribly scared inside. One of the tourists said, "Yeah, well, I think so. He looks like he's wearing an executioner mask, and he looks like," when I say an old medieval executioner, what body shape comes to mind? Okay. He looks just like what you're thinking right now, except he's naked. Okay. She said, I guess nobody would have believed us that we could meet someone like this in the forest, but he allowed us to take a picture of him without any problems. I was lucky that there were two of us. I can't imagine what I would have done if I would have been alone. He said this was relaxation for him. He often walks naked in the woods like this. Okay, that doesn't really explain the stick. or the mask. You need a walking stick? Okay. But why do you have the sex toy at the end of the stick? You know what? Don't answer that. I don't think I want the answer.
I think you're going to be seeing a lot more of this, really. I mean, this is being normalized. Like, did you see the Canadian Prime Minister just a few days ago at the Vancouver Pride Parade?
Yes.
I mean, there's this one shot where he's hugging a man that's in what looks like nothing but pink panties. Yeah, right there.
No, it's a pink thong. It's a pink thong.
It's a pink thong.
It's from a man that should not remember the executioner I just had you imagine.
Right.
Now imagine he's wearing a pink thong. There you go. This is the problem with radio is it uses your own imagination. And your own imagination is probably worse than what the actual picture is, but not in this case. Not in this case. By the way, you said that we're being desensitized to all of this. This brings up Howard Stern no longer being wanted at XM. XM is like, he's not really worth his $100 million contract, and so they're not going to renew. And I was thinking about Howard today because when I was 18 or 19 years old, 18, I was working at WPGC in Washington, D.C., which was a huge radio station. And it was right there in the nation's capital. And for years it had been number one. And then Howard Stern came along, and Howard Stern took everything and turned everything upside down. And when the Florida airline, like Sunshine Airlines or something, I can't remember what it was, but it plowed into the 14th Street Bridge. It was taking off from Reagan National Airport, not called Reagan back then, just National. And I think it couldn't get enough height or something, and it crashed right into the 14th Street Bridge. And while they were digging bodies out of the Potomac, he called the airline and tried to book a seat live on the air, to the 14th Street Bridge. Would like to buy a ticket, please? Yes, sure. Where are you going? The 14th Street Bridge. And the person just fell apart. And it was so horrible. But everybody was listening to him because he was, I think you were the one, Jason, that said he was like punk rock. Yeah. You didn't necessarily listen to punk rock because you liked punk rock. You listened because nobody else was saying anything like that. Nobody else was doing anything like that. And he became wildly popular, then went up to WNBC radio and totally changed that. Don Imus, who was actually a class act and very, very intelligent, hated Howard Stern, and Howard Stern hated him because, at the time, they're just from a different generation. No. Howard did so much to destroy our culture. And it's funny that he embraces now people like Al Gore and the left and big government, because he was always anti-government, always. And the people that, were the leaders against Howard Stern's show were not people like me. They were people like Al and Tipper Gore. And now he embraces all of those people and embraces this big government. The one thing that Howard Stern did do is he fought the government and won. Most times he won. And he was a trailblazer for freedom of speech, but he was also a trailblazer for just degrading of our society, the degrading of women and relationships and everything else. And he was I think he was a pox on our culture for a very long time. He was an innovator, to be sure. And then he seemed to, right around between 2010 or so, he started to just concentrate on interviews, and he became one of the best interviewers of anybody on radio or television. And I know because he interviewed me one time, and I was 20 minutes into it, and my guard was way up, and I was 20 minutes into it, and I stopped, and I realized I was telling him stuff that I hadn't told anybody before, and I thought, what the hell am I doing? This guy is a magician. He's a hypnotist. He can just make you so comfortable, and that's what made him a great interviewer. He could make you feel so comfortable. And that you would just share everything. And so he got great interviews. And then after COVID, I think he went insane. I really do. I think COVID radicalized him into this big state monster. I mean, the 20-year-old Howard Stern would be disgusted with the 70-year-old Howard Stern. But that's the way a lot of these, I can't put him in the hippie category. But he is of that age or close to that age, to where the younger self would be disgusted by the big state government guy that he has become, to where, you can scoop up anybody and just tell them exactly, what they're going to inject into their body and everything else. And it's crazy. He went nuts. And once again, this is not Donald Trump. Donald Trump, I think, was a fan of his. Donald Trump was a regular on his show for a very long time. And Howard Stern loved him until he became president of the United States. And then, of course, because he was on his journey of just becoming this diehard Democrat, and not the kind of Democrat that was for him, if there were any. I shouldn't say Democrat. Liberal. He was always liberal and believed that you could say whatever you want and do whatever and I don't have a responsibility for society and everything else. And that's fine, whatever. I disagree with you, but fine. But he became this Democrat. And so as soon as Donald Trump became the candidate, he went nuts and never changed on that. And then COVID happened and he went even crazier. And it just was announced, I think it was announced yesterday, that XM has just said, okay, enough is enough. We can't do this anymore. We just can't do this anymore. You're not worth it. And like Stephen Colbert, it's just that you've just lost touch with what you do and who you are. And, Stephen Colbert maybe was funny at one point. He is I don't mean to, just because I disagree with you doesn't mean that that you're not funny. So I shouldn't say it that way. He is, I think he was funny for a long time. I think he just started to take himself so seriously and put himself in this mission role, which, understand, I have done the same thing myself. I've put myself in this mission role, and I maybe I'm going to turn out to be 71 and looking back and going, geez, would the young me like the old me? I'm not even sure anymore, but when you start taking yourself so seriously that you are the one that has to change the world, like Stephen Colbert, you're the one that has to, and I guess it's not, I'm sorry, I'm just working out, I'm having a therapy session with you, I'm sorry. But I guess it's not that you feel like you have to change the world and you're on a mission to do that. I think maybe we should all be on that mission a little bit, but it's that you have to be the one that rams through policies. I think that's the problem. You're the one, and that's where Stephen Colbert went wrong. I mean, the dancing hypodermic needles. My gosh, what the hell was that all about? That was him feeling like, he's got a responsibility to push this through. No, you have a responsibility maybe to tell truth, but in that particular role, your responsibility is to be entertaining, and to be funny. And honestly, because that's not your show, that belongs to CBS, that airtime, you have a responsibility to get ratings. And that's just not the way to do it. All right, back in just a second. So see you later, Howard Stern. I wish it would have ended differently, but, it didn't. All right, let me tell you about Lear Capital. When it comes to money, I like the things that I can see and touch and hold in my hand. What you can't ever do with digital currency is just that. You can't really do that with stocks on a screen. or even that 401k balance that looks great until the market drops 900 points in a single day. Look, I'm not saying that you should bury your gold in your backyard. I'm not saying it either. But I'm saying if your retirement plan exists entirely in a world of zeros and ones, you might want to think about hedging that with something real, something that has been a store of value for thousands of years. And right now, with interest rates, inflation, and global tensions all fluctuating at once, there has never been a smarter time to call Lear Capital and ask about your physical precious metals IRA. If you've been thinking about making a move, don't wait for the next crisis to force your hand. Get some stability in place now with Lear Capital. Please call Lear Capital today at 800-957-GOLD. Get your free $4,200 gold report. And when you call 800-957-GOLD, ask about getting up to $15,000 in free gold or silver with a qualifying purchase. Call now, 800-957-GOLD, 800-957-GOLD. Call them now. It's Lear Capital.
Beck will be right back.
Sarah, doing her job today in the control room and actually doing a little of Stu's job as well, said, I think that SiriusXM is making Stern an offer. Yeah, they are. But remember, he was doing like $100 million contracts, and he's no longer worth it. So, they're not going to offer him anything that he can take. They might offer him, $5 million or $10 million or whatever, and he's just not going to take it. That's what they think. However, an inside source close to Stern said, if Sirius isn't going to give Stern a good offer, it doesn't have anything to do with his ratings. It has everything to do with the political climate. Really? Stern always was a guy that both sides could listen to. Believe it or not, I knew a lot of real conservative people that listen to Stern all the time. You cut your audience in half. That is an audience problem.
Glenn Beck.